Episode 25 of Pelotero Pickle. We're talking Hall of Fame. We're talking Universal DH. We're talking Nolan Arenado being gift wrapped to the Cardinals. Join us. Let's get into it. Pickle, rundown, pickle. Episode 25. This could be a full rant episode, Chris. How you doing today?
It's an interesting question, young Robert. How am I doing? Well, there's snow coming down so hard that I almost can't see. It's cold. And yeah.
I was looking up flights because I'm getting ready to come up there. And then I saw the snow, the weather report. I'm like, screw that. I'm not coming up there, at least till the end of the week if I need to.
As I like to say to Ferb, this ain't it.
Yeah.
It ain't it.
Yeah. Very good. Let's jump right into the topics here. Topic number 1, baseball Hall of Fame voting. There were 0 inductees in the 2021 class. No player achieved at the 75% threshold. Curt Schilling was the closest. Then he said, screw you guys, I'm out. Take me off the list for next year, his last year of eligibility. He doesn't want any part of it anymore. Producer Patrick asks, is this the travesty that is being made out to be? And then just for discussion purposes, what the heck is going on with voting? Should the writers be the one voting? I know they have the, what's the committee called? The Players Committee, or that there's some other name for it. What do you got on the 75% threshold not being met by a single player?
I'm over everything, so I'm definitely over this. The greatest hitter that ever lived is floating like on a Hall of Fame ballot and not getting into the Hall of Fame because of people's presumptions, ideas, general, moral authority that they think they're better than everybody else and everybody's acting holier than thou. Like fundamentally, this is the problem with the world right now. Everybody wants to tell everybody else why they don't deserve something or why they're bad at something or why they are bad humans, and nobody takes a look at themselves in the mirror. And this is the difference between the generation that you and I grew up in and what's happening right now. It's become so socially acceptable to tell somebody that they're bad at something when they've done so much good, right? They've just done so much good. And one either real or perceived notion about somebody allows the rest of the world conceptually to just judge the heck out of them. And man, oh man, I grew up in a time when people would say to me, if you don't have something good to say about somebody, don't say it. And it just seems like we're in a very opposite world than that. So we've got guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Curt Schilling, who are superstars to every degree. And Schilling's a little bit different, right? Schilling was never really that obvious, clear front line, like shut down guy. He was close, but he was never really like that next level pitcher. But still, to me, very deserving of consideration for the Hall of Fame. But now it's become about his morality, his politics, his comments to journalists. And here's the problem with like, if you try to do this way, right, and you try to use these objective thoughts, and everybody's just going to have their own interpretation of what character is and what morality is. So we're never going to get anywhere ever again. I don't know, man. Like,
ever again.
No, it's just like,
I might be on board with that, at least for like, you talked about that book, The Pendulum, and like where the pendulum swinging to. We got like 40 years of this on the way.
Yeah.
Just buckle up. This is the new norm.
It's just super irritating, man. Like everybody's so quick to pass judgment on people. And that this is literally, it's the world we live in because somebody reads a tweet or sees an Instagram post, and like blaming social media is just part of it, right? Like it's the information age. So everybody has any opinion that they want in front of them validated. I don't know. Like everybody's got demons, man. Like people, like every person in the world has something that somebody doesn't like about them. And I don't understand what makes people feel like they have the right to call other people out when they have their own skeletons in their closet. I really, and then the crazy thing is they can mess up, that same person can mess up over and over again and not get called out for it. And I hate hypocrisy, man. Hypocrisy stinks. Like, it's just terrible. And I think it's very much compromised the Hall of Fame in and of itself. To me, it's laughable. I think it's the media that's making almost a bigger deal out of it. Certainly, as a player, I think you feel honored to get in. But the beauty of this discussion and the impetus of what the Hall of Fame means is that when push comes to shove, it's not affecting your playing career, right? Like, it's not affecting your mental state going into a game or preparing for the playoffs or whatever it may be. So at a minimum, and it's not compromising your ability to earn income as a player either. So thankfully, it's not affecting the players in their playing careers. It's still unfortunate that it is affecting everything else after, but I don't know. I guess you live and learn, and time will be the deciding factor. It's just unfortunate. And do I think writers should have the ultimate vote on who gets in the Hall of Fame? No, it's not even close, because what really should matter is what your peers think of you, not what a bunch of people who write about your performance think about you.
The whole argument, so Bonds is the most obvious, has to be in the Hall of Fame, best top 5 player of all time. Like, what are we talking about? Never failed a steroid test. It's just assumed and presumed, and like the writers are just being the judge and jury on this one. Wasn't against the rules when he played, right? Was there a point where it switched?
No.
When he was playing? So like Bud Selig shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. If Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame, Bud Selig shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. There's tons of players in the big leagues that are presumed to have done steroids. And I'm going to like take it even a step further, be like, what is performance enhancing drug now? Because I don't know. Like
what
like Adderall. Adderall is probably the greatest performance enhancing drug you can take, but you get a prescription for it. Like, if you're doing anything that's non-natural, it's performance enhancing. Like, where's the line? Because if your brain and your mind and your ability to process information is like the separating factor, steroids can make you bigger, stronger, faster, but they can't change the way your mind processes stuff. Adderall, Ritalin, like that stuff is like putting your brain on hyperdrive. You're turning your normal computer into a supercomputer. That's wildly performance enhancing. Allows you to focus, allows you to stay dialed in. Players forever were doing greenies. I'm sure like players in like the Babe Ruth era were doing stuff that was very much frowned upon if the public found out. Like, I just, happens in every industry, happens across the board. Like the players that were taking steroids most recently weren't getting caught, and players that aren't taking steroids are getting caught for nothing. The science is bogus. It's crazy to me. So to keep a guy like Bonds out, who's the best of all time, like he's a part of the game, he's a part of the history. Schilling, to me, I would say he's like an above average borderline. Like he's a guy that like probably should be in the Hall of Fame through normal voting from a pure playing on the field standpoint. His numbers are good. I just looked him up. He's 216 and 146, 3.46 ERA, bunch of strikeouts, 162 average is 15 and 10 with a 3.46. 211 strikeouts. Like he's a very, very good pitcher. Frontline starter.
You know what it's all coming down to? And this is the problem with it, right? We say we create systems in the world, and we say we create all this objectivity so that, people can make the most informed decisions and so on and so forth, yada, yada. And when push comes to shove, the reason why those two guys didn't get in the Hall of Fame, the reason why Roger Clemens is in the Hall of Fame, is because writers have a perceived notion that they don't like them. They don't know the individuals all that well. There's probably like 5 guys in the BBWAA that really know Barry Bonds because they're around him, and even still, they don't know him. They just saw Barry Bonds, the guy who had to put a guard up, who had to defend his position as a player, and was kind of just a perceived not nice person, and they're letting their emotional perception of who that person is create their judgment. So if Barry Bonds was more well liked, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. So
Sure.
what it comes down to, it literally, this is coming down to people over and over and over again. How many times have I given you the example of, we create these committees and we want to say we want to use this objective measurement, and that's fine. Like, you look at all the data, all the numbers, all the analytics you want, but when it comes down to it, it's people. It's always people. And the problem is that people are being granted the opportunity to create just these opinions in their brains that are right, wrong, or indifferent. Like they're gray, and frankly, they really don't matter, and they shouldn't matter, because if that is the defining characteristic, then you're never going to find a person that has 100% likability numbers, right? Like, you just never do it. It's like a
Did you see
popularity
the
contest.
yeah? Did you see the Patrick Reed situation in golf this weekend?
I did.
So on TV, you clearly see the ball. So Patrick Reed hit a golf shot, walked up to his ball, deemed that it was plugged. They had 4 inches of rain, so I'm sure every player was walking up to every shot, inspecting it. He asked the volunteer, "Did you see a bounce?" They did not see a bounce. It was in the rough. There might have been some protocol issue where he didn't call in a rules official before inspecting the ball.
He did. He called in the rules official.
He picked up the ball before the rules official got there, but that seems like that's kind of normal. But the media was saying that was bad. He got a ruling. If you watch the replay, the ball clearly bounced. It wasn't plugged, unless the ball plugged on the bounce, which is unlikely. People freaking out about it because they saw the replay and it was obvious that the ball bounced, but they didn't have access to the video when they were making the decision. So he got crucified, went on to win by like 3 strokes or 5 strokes. Then it came out, then Rory McIlroy had the same situation happen to him. Ball bounced, cleared the NTV, got a ruling, dropped the ball. Nobody made a big deal about it. Patrick Reed has a history, like in the bunker, he like swept out behind the ball one time. He's got a little bit of a history of I guess you could say, try to bend the rules or using the rules to his advantage in a way that's not in the spirit of the game. So reputation preceded him and people were all over it. But like, if you're the guy between the ropes, you walk up to your ball, you look down, you ask, did it bounce? They say no. He couldn't see it. He was in a bunker, so he couldn't see where it landed or how it landed. The volunteer says no. He checks the ball out. If I'm walking up to a ball and it's been rained 4 inches, then I would be checking for that. It's just crazy to me. They made such a big deal about it. Like, he still had to go out and win. Like, you're gonna give him a stroke penalty, he still won.
People are just too quick to pass judgment, man. And I feel like I'm wasting my breath so much of the time, where I know that there's rational, reasonable people in the world, and I know that there are people that like think like me, and maybe they're just not as loud, or what I think what you just come to terms with is that, you have to pick your battles in life, right? Like, you have to pick your spots where you're really gonna, I don't know, just make this be the way you think and reason. And it's upsetting. It's just upsetting because we live in a world that's like quick to be divisive, quick to hate, quick to call somebody else out. But I think the biggest thing that human beings need to do is take a look at themselves in the mirror before they take a look at everybody else. And that's just, me being one man and saying my opinion is not going to affect the masses. Like, we have to do a better job as a society, I think, of being compassionate, really, like, is what it comes down to. Being compassionate to the fact that the people on the other side of us are human beings. But so often, I think we look at the circumstances that other people have in their lives, and people get jealous really quickly. And because of that, they feel like it's okay to just go after somebody. It's like the old adage, oh, well, this person's a celebrity or they're an athlete. That gives you the right to defame them or just go after them in ways that are, I don't know, they're just uncalled for. And, people say, oh, you put yourself in the public eye. Well, I mean, we're talking about a world where everybody wants to say, well, love your neighbor, be compassionate, unify. And really everything that's done on a day-to-day basis is to divide. right? It's like, hey, get on this side of the fence or the other. It's like, how about we knock the fence down? How's that? And like really get to the bottom of things.
Yeah, it's like in mainstream media, or if you want to call it mainstream media, um, where it's become much more about opinion than it has uh, being objective. And I think the baseball writers are probably in that same kind of position now, where maybe in years past they might have been more uh, unbiased or more objective in what they're doing, and now it just seems like they're just sharing their opinion and how they feel about somebody, as opposed to just like, did this guy play to the best of his ability during his era with the rules as they were. Like, it's just not objective. It's everybody's just letting their feelings known more than anything else.
Are you good at baseball or not? It's binary. It's binary, dude. It's not. It's nothing more than that. It's literally like, how big an impact did you make on the game?
Pretty
That's
simple.
it. That's all you need to consider, and then stop.
Let me change it to the shift the conversation a little bit. So, basketball Hall of Fame has non NBA players. It's like, it's not like the baseball Hall of Fame is like the MLB Hall of Fame. What do you think about the NBA or the basketball Hall of Fame? They have like amateur players, amateur coaches. I guess like you could be like one of the best college coaches of all time and be in the basketball Hall of Fame. Do you think the baseball Hall of Fame should be like that?
I honestly don't care enough. I'm just gonna be dead honest with you. I think the Hall of Fame conceptually is a great idea. Um, I think in practice it's broken. Uh, I think there's just so many different things that lead to the decision making, the thoughts behind what makes somebody a Hall of Famer and what doesn't. And I think, like, honestly, that uh, my desk was about to fall, and I realized that the table was narrow, so maybe we'll cut that out. Honestly, I just think the Hall of Fame is like a pat on the back, right? And it's certainly bigger than that. Don't get me wrong. It solidifies your position in history within the game, but it's so difficult to create standards in a new generation when old generations have preceded you, and you're trying to have information that compares one generation to the next. This is what it comes down to. That's what the Hall of Fame is. It's literally the comparison of one generation to the next. And should it be more like the Basketball Hall of Fame? Probably. Like, I think if you just make a big enough impact on the game in your life, yeah, you should be recognized for that. I promise you that 90% of guys that get in the Hall of Fame, it's probably not as big an achievement as like what they did to get to the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Because like, you've been removed from your playing career at some point. There's not like that urgency. It's not that cutthroat. Hey, I have zero point 0.4 seconds to react to a pitch. It's something that somebody tells you, and because of it, either you're in or you're out. It's not like you have no control over it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I certainly understand the honor and legacy that comes with it. And I'm not trying to downplay that at all, but I would venture to say, as a player, it's much more, I don't know, just kind of take a deep breath and it's easy going, because like, your career's already happened. It's already over. There's nothing more that you could do to sway the decision one way or another.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big feather in the cap, but like you said, it doesn't like change what you did. It's just people recognizing it in a different way. So let's move on. New topic. The MLB and the MLBPA currently doing battle in the public forum of leaked stories, as usual. No DH, no expanded playoffs. The league just tried to shorten the season to 154 games, I believe, which is going to get shot down. Uh, just a bunch of BS going on.
Just trying to stay relevant, man.
So, like most things Major League Baseball does, this is to me a pretty big money situation where they just cut out a bunch of minor league teams to save a bunch of money. They don't want to pay an extra 15 guys. I never even thought of looking into this, but do American League teams have an average, like a higher average cost because of the DH?
No.
Do the National League, like, is it going to change the average payroll per player? Is it 15 more jobs gained, or then you just lose some pitching flexibility? Like,
There's only a
crazy.
certain amount of guys on the roster at any given point in time, right?
Right. So you either have an extra position player on the bench who's not a DH, or you have a pitcher in the bullpen who's not a DH, or you have a DH, which means you might have less flexibility with your role players, but you have a DH, so your pitcher's not hitting. I tend to be a traditionalist, so I like when there's some different strategy that happens in the game. I can certainly understand the argument for not wanting to see a pitcher like have a terrible at bat and maybe put the ball in play. I think there's also some pretty entertaining things, like Bartolo Colon hitting a homer is pretty amazing. It creates a different dynamic. It's interesting. The reality of the situation, the DH is going to make an out at least 7 out of 10 times anyway. So whether the pitcher makes an out 8 out of 10 times, and you're adding layers of, bunt defense, late game pitching moves, double switches, there's a lot more strategy involved when there's no DH.
I bet you Major League Baseball wishes like 7 pitchers could hit, because then they would all strike out and the game would go way faster.
Yeah,
on
just
3 pitches.
remove all offense.
Yeah.
Make the game like an hour.
Or make it all offense. The crazy thing is they're trying to make it an offensive game, right? They're trying to let's make it, let's put the ball on steroids. Let's put the mound further back, this and that, automated strike zone. And then they're like, we want to make the game shorter. I'm like, do you think like 3 more runs a game on average will shorten the game? Is that like there was guys used to throw 2-hour and 12-minute complete game shutouts, right? They didn't throw, 160 pitch, 10 run, 14 hit affairs, right? Like those weren't the 2-hour and 12-minute complete games. Like they keep talking in circles, man. Like keep talking in circles. And at the end of the day, just come out and say it. Like, we want to pay the players less money. Like, if you just came out and said it, I would feel so much better about every move that they try to make. Cutting 8 games off the regular season in there, like the justification is now the salary that you sign your contract for whatever, we're going to cut 8 days off, 8 days of prorated pay off that. And I guarantee you that's part of what would happen, because, the contract we signed is based on a 162 game season. So, you signed for $23 million. Well, knock $1 million off that.
Well, they want the shortened season and the expanded playoffs and cut the minor league teams. Like, it's so transparent, but then they just leak stories and they're like,
and they're trying to
so
stay
obvious.
relevant, Bobby, because if they're not making any free agent moves, right? There have been very few free agent signings. Like, I'd say more than half the big free agents are still very much available in February. This is now 2 or 3 years in a row that this has kind of been the case, where free agency hasn't been fast at all. Typical post CBA, 4 years of just futility in signing. Teams that are going for it, i.e. the White Sox, make a splash. Like teams that are going for it, go pay guys and they go get them at high-end free agents. Teams that are not, just kind of chilling, let the market do its thing, and then we'll see who's available. And if we can slide out a player that's worth about $12 million a year, but we can get him for $4 because nobody else wanted him, we'll take him. If not, we'll just go get a guy that's worth $500,000. It's so belligerently obvious, right? Like, it's so belligerently obvious. It's a weird dynamic. I'm not going to sit here and say, that any person should ever complain about making $15, $18, $20 million, but let me tell you something. Like, I see it kind of from both sides, because there's players that I think earn their keep for a long time, and should have stuck around longer in the game and should have made their 4, 5, 6, 8 million or whatever it was per year. They kind of just got wiped out. And there's guys that now should be making their 10, 12, 14 million that are, well, we'll either just we'll pay you 3. And like, the case in point is Kevin Pillar, right? Kevin Pillar, one of our, like, my best friends in baseball, like, guy's a grinder. He's a warrior, man. The guy he's a winner. He's a winning player, run through a wall, do anything for you. Like, the epitome of what probably in the 70s and 80s would have been considered just a true grinder, great teammate. And if you looked at his numbers in the 70s and 80s, you'd be like, man, he's pretty solid. Like, this guy hit 20 homers, knocked in 80 last year. Like, playing center field, it's a premium position. Like, his value as a center fielder in 1982 with the numbers he had last year would have been one of the highest paid center fielders in baseball. But now they've reevaluated how they judge the position, and they're saying, well, you're probably only worth like $3 million. So if you ask for 5 or 7, we're just not going to get you there. And you know what? We'll just wait even longer, and maybe we'll get you on a minor league deal, because then we don't have any guarantees in place. So if you get hurt in spring training, then we're not on the hook.
Kevin Pillar, free agent.
Yeah, there's a lot of free agents.
Hit 288, 12 doubles, 6 homers, 26 RBI in 54 games. Expand that out. 288 with 18 homers, 75 RBI. Not a bad season. Very solid.
Yeah.
Very solid. To make it as about Kevin as possible there. What's your take on DH? Yes or no in National League? Would you want it there?
We have to solidify what the true objective of the game is. If you're really looking for an infusion of offense, then yes, obviously, 100%. Am I a traditionalist who likes the idea that there's a different dynamic, a little bit different strategy to managing a National League game? Absolutely, 100%. I think it's been such a natural thing in the game. Look, and I'm not opposed to change for the better. So I'd be down with the DH. I think, obviously, with the current market as it stands for the players, having a DH would allow, and this is to the point of what Will tweeted, having a DH just allows position players to have more opportunity. Like Mitch Moreland, right? Mitch Moreland is a guy that comes to mind who toward the tail end of his career, probably last year, went to San Diego and really had a place there to get some at bats because they were using the DH. Guys like you're more likely to sign a position player and pay them a little bit of money than you are a reliever, right? Like the likelihood is you're just going to wheel through another reliever that you have down in the minor leagues, right? That makes sense. Like because at the end of the day, your 13th bullpen guy, like the 13th guy in the staff is not, you're not going to pay him $8 million. It's a $500,000 player because it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other, because that guy pitches when you're down 6 or up 6 or 8, 9, 10, whatever the number is.
Why don't you just have the DH pitch when you're down by?
Oh, and Eric Kratz, man, first team all pitcher, first team all position player pitcher.
I think that solves a lot of problems. Just have your position players pitch more.
Yeah.
In games that don't matter. Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. I like the DH. So.
No, wait. If you're a traditionalist, you got to like not the DH.
I like the DH in one league, but not the other league. I like the difference. I like the variation.
You're very confusing there.
Yeah. Well, I misspoke. So there's that. Nolan Arenado. Not Arenado. Arenado. A lot of people say it wrong. Traded to the Cardinals along with, I did the math, 500,000 bats. They had the joke about like, oh, you sent them there with trading for some bats. They gave the Cardinals Nolan Arenado and $50 million, and they got a bunch.
If you're gonna do it right.
Randy Carlson and I had a little back and forth on Twitter. I like Randy. Puts out a lot of good stuff. He hates Nolan Arenado. I wasn't even on my computer looking up stats. I was just going on like the MLB app to pull stuff up quick. Nolan Arenado is top 10 in OPS like 5 years in a row. The only other player that was top 10 in OPS for that stretch was Mike Trout. He's like, I just don't trust him in big situations. I feel like Arenado is an absolute run producer. He's a magician at third base. For somebody to say, "Hey, we'll give you $50 million and Nolan Arenado," now they got him with Goldschmidt in the lineup.
He might be the best. He might be the best defensive third baseman of all time. And this is not a knock on Brooks Robinson, but he does stuff with his glove that I can't even and
he's like running down the third base, like he's in left field. And he's like, oh, there's 88 across the top.
And Machado does some really like nice flashy things, but Arenado's better than him at third base. So that's one thing. Not that I'm a big defense doesn't matter guy, but I think at the hot corner it does. So that's one thing. This guy smashes. He rakes. I think he's kind of a gamer, which is cool from what I see. I think he likes winning. I don't know if signing the deal has changed him at all. Yeah, man. You normally win
a little bit of a down year in 2020.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Look, the blip from last year is a blip. There's a lot of blips. Let's put it that way. You're gonna see a dude that's on a mission this year because he thinks he can go and win a World Series. So, special player, man. What I fundamentally don't understand is why do teams give players such massive extensions, right? To then ultimately trade them and give money away in the trade, because realistically, right? So just stay with me for a second. So literally, you sign Arenado for X amount of dollars, and you're like, oh well, I'm going to trade him for some pieces. And I don't know what the Rockies sent over. If it was a couple bags of balls, some bats, some minor league players, whatever. Essentially, what you're doing is you're paying. Like, it's not like you're trading Arenado for those players. You're paying $50 million for those players, because you could have just let him sign elsewhere, and then you would have had that $50 million just chilling out and be like, all right, I'm going to go pay for some players now. You know what I mean? So the system to me is like kind of let's give the guy an extension because we want to make him stay here. We want to show that we care about moving forward. Why did you just give the guy $300 million if you don't actually care for him to be there, right? And we're trading him for assets. No, you're not. You traded $50 million for whatever you got in return.
Playing your books. That's all you're doing.
and the $50 million you just gave away, like literally might have got you a couple bags of balls and some, a fungo. Because you don't know, like those guys that you traded for. I didn't hear any of the names, so clearly none of them are probably relevant. Not that I would know anybody in the big leagues now. Anyway, half the people I don't know. But yeah, I mean, go Cardinals. Cardinals always try, which is awesome. They try at baseball, which I really like about them.
Yeah, let me get the names here for the players. Let's see.
Just the fact that it takes this long is.
Yeah, it's a bit down the article already. They're basically saying how the title of the article is "Cardinals trade for Nolan Arenado is an absolute heist."
Yeah, well,
so that's.
I'm assuming there was nobody that has any big league service time. And bear in mind, the guys that you traded for, some were probably at summer camp last year, so they had like maybe 2 months of actual playing baseball. But some of the other ones, like the A-ball kids, were just like they haven't picked up a bat or a ball like in game in over.
They got the number one prospect, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, who was a first-round pick in 2020. Both of those players are third baseman, so they got some stability at third base in 5 years.
Nice.
Maybe.
It's got to be some other. Hold on.
Nolan Gorman is a stud.
No, wait. They're keeping Gorman. Where is this trade? I'm misreading this. I can't even find it. 2 articles and I can't find it.
Patrick came in there with a hot take saying Nolan Gorman's a stud.
He's nasty.
He's not as good as Nolan Arenado.
Listen, this goes back to the old adage: prospect's only a prospect till he's a suspect, right? And I'm not taking anything away from guys' ability to be good players in the future or anything like that. And I certainly understand trading right now talent for future talent, but Arenado's we're talking about probably once in a generation third baseman, right? Like once every couple generations third baseman. Now you can make the argument that there are guys that produce similar to that level in the major leagues right now, but that dude's a really, really special player. And when you have him, I think it always becomes, it's an interesting dynamic to me when you trade guys like that for prospects, for guys that just aren't established players. And because Nolan Gorman might be really, really good, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but even a player who's really, really good right now in the minor leagues, you just don't know what his future looks like. He could get hurt. He could decide he doesn't like baseball. He could get in a car accident, and you knock on wood, you hope none of those things happen. But like, I know what I'm going to get out of Nolan Arenado every day. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Nolan Gorman. And that's part of what the reality of the game was. And now I think it's just so much easier to try to project out a young player and say, oh, this guy's going to make an impact on my future. And this and that. Like, there are so many more trades that don't work out for players like high-end prospects that, again, it's more a salary dump than it is anything else. I don't know. I just don't like it. I just don't.
Well, now they have Gorman and Arenado, so
yeah, they didn't even trade him away.
yeah.
Now they got. I can't get Google. Google's not working right now. My phone isn't working.
I've never heard anybody say that Google's not working.
You guys should, maybe Google's down. Maybe Wall Street.
I thought Gorman was the kid that got traded from the Cardinals to the Rockies.
Nope, they kept him. I misread it.
Dude, so what are we doing?
I don't know. I can't pull anything up.
Maybe the Cardinals are trying to be the best team in the history of everness. They want to have 3 third basemen play at once.
As they should, as every team should. They should all be trying to be the best.
But maybe they want to play 3 third basemen at one time.
Well, probably shift one of them into right field, shift another one.
Well, Cardinals are really good at finding talent. They're good.
Yeah, Google's broken right now. For me, anyway. Any thoughts on Coors Field effect with Arenado? His stats are definitely skewed to being more successful at home and at Coors. We've talked to Dante Bichette about this, how it's often difficult because you get used to the air, like the adjustment back and forth is difficult. So by playing less games with variability, he might be better off. Any thoughts on that? Did you ever play in Colorado?
I did.
Thoughts?
I did. Whatever. Like
did you were curveballs flatter, sinkers flatter, fastballs doing specials, like any difference? BP really fun?
I honestly, the only thing I remember about batting practice being different is the outfield is enormous. Like
big gaps there.
The thing you notice in thin air typically is that the ball stays up in the air longer, right? Like when you hit something high, it just has a higher apex, and therefore should travel further theoretically. But the gaps are huge in Colorado. So like in order to hit more homers there, you have to hit the ball really high. If you hit the ball low, it doesn't matter. If you're like a line drive, gap to gap guy. Now the advantage is the gaps are like kind of more open, which allows for more doubles. And I think if you're a good hitter, a place like that should help you because it should create some confidence that, the mindset that, it is a better place to hit, even though the perception, like if I hit the ball low in BP, like I didn't hit more homers there than I did anywhere else. So the air, I'm the wrong person to ask. I say this all the time. Like I don't know the difference. Like I breathe. And then if I'm breathing, I'm breathing. Like there's no, like, I don't vary like my levels of breathing. I don't like understand what a 1 versus a 10 is. I've never paid attention to it enough. And then more than anything, I think it's probably a mindset thing, right? Like, but if you like I would say that there were certainly places I liked to hit better at than Colorado. I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I think if you're good, then you're good. And I think if you're not good, then you're probably not good. But I think Nolan Arenado is good.
How do you think Trevor Story feels today or in the days after the trade?
Probably sad.
And then what's his name? Charlie.
Oh, Charlie
with a long
Charles
hair.
Blackbeard, Blackman.
Probably not thrilled to see
yeah. I mean, I think they had the foundation of like a pretty good lineup. It seems like the last few years they haven't really tried to bolster any other parts really, and they had some decent young guys like the Tapia kid can play a little bit. Look at Dahl and
Dahl's gone.
yeah, but the were there. I'm talking about. So they had like the makings of.
And then they were like, "Nah, we don't want to be good. Get him out of here."
And their pitching staff was getting solid. Like they had a chance. They had a chance to win the division last year, like make the playoffs. And 2 years ago, they were like right there in the race, and they had some injuries. So clearly, they said, "Nah, we out."
Google's working again. You just made a comment that they had a chance to make the postseason last year. I need to
they traded for Pilar at the deadline. They were 3 games out of the wild card, and then they tanked after.
Yeah, but they're in a tough division.
Yeah, they didn't have a chance to win the division.
San Diego, LA, and San Diego are
last year. 26 out of the 30 teams made the playoffs. Bobby, they had a chance. Oh, that's a joke. It wasn't funny.
Expand those playoffs, more playoff revenue. Post show. If you could add one competition to All-Star Weekend, what would you add?
I have 2 that I want to add, so I'm already breaking the rules of this.
That's allowed.
One would be target hitting competition. So you remember in like Triple Play 99 where they would just put a bunch of farm equipment out in the field and like you could hit it through windows and whatever. Like that'd be sick if you just had to hit targets that were moving around, and you could have moving targets that were worth more points, and you could have like stationary targets that were worth less, that were smaller, stuff up in the air. That would be like one. My second one would be like outfield throwing to targets.
That was one of mine. I want to see but the issue is guys aren't going to do it because they like, what's the benefit? Like hitting batting practice is one thing to like air it out. They used to do it in the NFL. They used to do like the quarterback competition where they
quarterback challenge. Yeah. But if awesome. You pay enough money, people will do whatever you ask them to do.
I was gonna say like an American Ninja Warrior style like fielding competition. We had to like do different arm slots. You had to like jump over things and make throws.
Play defense. Yeah, or you could play defensive horse where like Francisco Lindor would be like, all right, between the legs, glove flip to the second baseman with a pirouette in the middle, and then like if the guy didn't match it, you won.
Be there's like a dunk competition for infielders. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. I don't know how creative you can actually get with that though.
Yeah, I think
how many different variations can you
I would love to see Javi Baez and Francisco Lindor in a horse competition. Like, hey, I'm going to do it like this, and like call how many bounces you throw it to first on, or how you're going to flip the ball to the base.
Yeah, it's like so I would say home run derbies like the slam dunk competition. The like 3-point contest would be like if you put an outfielder out there and like had to throw it in the barrel, that type of thing. Do they still do like the skills competition where they have to like pass it into the hoops and stuff? Do they do that for NBA? Something like that for infielders for me would be really fun. Or if you could do like some sort of time competition for catchers, like where you got their pop times where they could like do transfer times, and
everybody's going to be like, oh, they don't want to get hurt. You could do base runners, like have them run the bases, like literally have the fast base runners run the base.
Doing a legit like speed challenge and make it like a social media based thing where you guys can call people out and they just do races to
find out who the fast.
But then they're gonna be like, oh, we just have StatCast, so why do we need to run in competition? So they can just pull it out head to head. I want to see who is the fastest guy in the big leagues right now. I don't answer that. Is Billy Hamilton still big leaguer?
Does he count? Yeah. He's got to be. He's got to be out
there. That would be fun just to see guys call, like, bring the freeze in there from the the Braves guys.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
That was the Indians.
Or do like a freeze thing where you have a non-fast guy challenge a fast guy in a freestyle competition.
No.
Like Miguel Cabrera challenges Billy Hamilton to a race.
Yeah, no.
And I'm like betting on it, like wagers. Like
you could have Miguel Cabrera start at second base and Billy Hamilton start at home and see who wins. Home to home. Home. That'd be sick.
And you mic everybody up, have them all on the field. Get like a very extroverted player being the MC of it. Like, who wants to race who? What are the wagers? That'd be fun.
Weird. you could allow fun to happen. The problem is, by the way, we just gave them the keys to the castle. If somebody from MLB listens to Pelotero, they won't do it anyway. But
yeah,
terrible.
I'm getting into like don't tell anybody anything mode again. I've been in different stages of that.
Yeah.
I'm entering a non-trust zone right now.
That'll happen.
Yep. Anything else? We got Super Bowl coming up. I know you think Tom Brady. You think will Tom Brady throw for over 300 yards?
Yes.
Will he have 2.5 as the over/under for touchdowns?
Yes.
Over?
Yes.
Will Patrick Mahomes throw for? We'll set it at 350. Over/under.
Yes.
You're not even answering the questions. You're just saying yes.
Well, I think yes.
That he will go over. The question is over/under. Not
honestly,
yes or
I
no.
can see the game has to have some offense, right? This is I see it being a very similar game to Patriots Chiefs 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game.
That'd be awesome.
How
good do you think the Bucs are? How good is Tampa Bay? Like compare the current Tom Brady led team to past Patriots teams.
Talent wise, this is the best team he's ever played on.
Offense.
The only argument you could make against that is the 2017 that was $1 billion and all. Because that was the first team that really had just an incredibly balanced offense. And by balanced, I mean they had Randy Moss. They could do everything. They could run. They could throw underneath, and obviously, I've never seen a dude that just got behind guys all the time. Like it's incredible.
That year was insane.
No, but I mean, it was. What's crazy is all he had to do is look if teams were playing cover 2, he'd have to look off one safety, and then Moss was going to get past the other one. 86% of Randy Moss's routes that year were goes. They were goes or posts. Nuts, dude. And every time he got behind people, every time.
He never even looked like he was trying to run hard, and then he just he'd be behind the defender every time.
I mean, so when was the last time you saw that in the NFL, right? When was the last time you saw just a receiver who at will could get behind safeties? So how good is Tom Brady's team currently? I think their defense has become a frontline defense because really all they needed was their cornerbacks to kind of step up their game a little bit. And kudos to Sean Murphy-Bunting, who in the first week of the playoffs really kind of set the tone for their secondary. I think their front seven have been awesome all year. Number 1 in rush defense in the NFL. You can't run on Ndamukong Suh. The guy, and to his credit, he's posted this year, which is pretty impressive. Jason Pierre-Paul off the edge. Shaq Barrett off the edge. These guys, Devontae David, really good players, really, really solid linemen and linebackers and the secondary.
How many wide open receptions will Travis Kelce have?
See, that's
under at 4. How many times he's going to be nobody 5 yards close to him? He just going to slip through and be like,
yeah, here's the issue. Here's the issue with Kansas City. 1, they're really creative with their playbook. And 2, I think against Kansas City, you really have to bracket Tyreek Hill, right? If you don't play under or over coverage on him, just double team him every play, that guy's going to chew you up and spit you out. So Kelce will find a lot of pockets when Tampa plays zone. He just finds pockets in the zone where that's why he's so open. He's a good receiver, pretty athletic. But yeah, that's it's part of the if you shut down Tyreek Hill, would you rather Tyreek Hill catch a ball on the first play of a drive and run by everyone for an 80-yard touchdown, or maybe make Mahomes throw 6 completions to score a touchdown? You saw that Tyreek Hill had 200 yards in the first quarter against them last time.
He's so fast.
Yeah.
Fast man alive.
And what it's going to come down to is how well Mahomes can play. And I have no doubts that he can play well. If it's the style of Super Bowl that they played last year, the Chiefs will lose. They won't win a low scoring game against Tampa. They're obviously going to have to get the score up. Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. I
think it's gonna be 34-20.
I think it ends up in a 1-score game. It's very. I don't think it can be 2 scores, to be honest. I just no matter what, because Brady will control the game.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, you can just reply.
I agree. I think it's a one-score game either way. It could be 3, it could be 7. I don't think we'll get to 2.
34-20.
Good call. I'm not going to make a prediction. I just think it's a one-score game. The line's at like 3.5, I think. Kansas City.
I like my pick.
There has been no point in time where I've like tried to downplay or disagree with your pick.
It's really fun to force you into picks because I know how much you hate making any sort of.
Dude, who you think I'm going to pick in this scenario, bro? Like, who you think I'm going to take? You think I'm going to take this kid Mahomes over here in Kansas City, or you think I'm going to take my guy Tommy, bro?
If Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, does he retire?
No.
He's on a 2-year deal. Why would he retire?
It doesn't matter. He's going to play. Like, I would take Tom Brady until he was like 68. I would literally I would take Tom Brady at age 68 over Ryan Tannehill right now. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Do you think Tom Brady's pliability would be below or above league average at the age of 60? It's a good question.
I don't know.
I would say it's above average pliability.
If he has enough coconut oil in his smoothies, that's a lubricator.
Get that avocado ice cream flowing. I think that's it. Do you have any post show? Anything you want to add?
Nah, man. Talk to you after Tommy hoists another one.
That's it. That's Pickle.